Hey folks, and welcome to the 3-year anniversary edition of Coming Up Next, the podcast. That's this podcast. It's called Coming Up Next, and it's a podcast. You can find the previous 3 years' worth of philosophical rambles at www.comingupnext.com.au, where you can also find links to Stitcher, iTunes, and Podbean, where you can subscribe to the show. You can also find it on Spotify, and if you do hit subscribe, it means you're going to have a party in your pants each and every week, because the show is going to download automatically for your podcast consumption. Hey friends, and welcome to the 3-year anniversary edition of Coming Up Next, the podcast. So good to have you with me for this. I'm Alistair Marks. For those of you who don't know, this is my show, Coming Up Next, the podcast, and would you believe it's been going for 3 years? 3 years! Started this in 2015 with a little idea that I would speak with some of the world's top creatives about how they've managed to create a life of their own design, to have these philosophical rambles, you know, on life, on career, on spirituality sometimes, on what it all means, on why we do what we do, and how we can keep moving forward. I was in the throes of a little bit of a creative crisis, not really sure how to keep going with this career. I was also in a pretty shit place with a relationship that I was trying to be in and not be in, and my career just wasn't quite looking the way that I think I'd hoped it would look. And I guess it's been pretty remarkable to reflect on the last 3 years, on the life of the podcast, to see not only where the show's ended up, but also where I've ended up. I've been fortunate enough to meet some truly amazing people from doing this podcast. People from all walks of life, you know, not just people in the film and entertainment industry. I mean, we have done the show with some incredible actors and directors and producers, but also, you know, people like Terry Virts, the astronaut, or Stephanie Rice, the Olympic gold medal winning swimmer. And, you know, when I started the show, I was living in Melbourne in Australia, and now I live in London, and am very fortunate to be able to travel around for work. You know, this episode that I'm about to present to you was recorded in Los Angeles, where I was for a film festival that a film that I'd made was featured in, and I'd gone there via New York, where I was working, and now I feel like I'm kind of yanking my own chain, so to speak. But I suppose it's just been great to kind of reflect on the way that the show has expanded and evolved, and the way that I feel like my career has sort of moved and shaken and become something that I could never have predicted when I started this. I guess where I'm getting to is I'm just very grateful for all the doors that have opened from taking the step to do this silly little philosophical ramble each and every week, and now it's back. I felt compelled to take a break because I was feeling a little bit burnt out. 155 episodes took its toll, and it wasn't feeling like the show was moving beyond where it had gotten to. It was sort of feeling a little bit like flat, I suppose. So I wanted to take some time to just kind of process, to not do it for a couple of weeks. And not doing it, I was still recording interviews. I've got now a nice little backlog of interviews with some truly amazing people whose paths I crossed with when I was in New York and Los Angeles recently. So some really special episodes coming up in the not too distant future. But so I took a break from releasing the episodes to see what would happen. And yeah, it's been a really amazing time to take that break, and now relaunching it on the 3-year anniversary. I couldn't think of a better person to be relaunching the show with, to be celebrating 3 years of Coming Up Next with, than Liam McIntyre, who long-time listeners will know is someone who I started out with. Way back in 2003, we started our careers together. We met working at the Rivoli Cinema, which is an Art Deco kind of art housey cinema in Melbourne. And we just kind of clicked immediately. You know, we were both people who were aspiring to be actors, to be performers, to be working in show business. And we just started writing stuff. We started making stuff. I had taken a break from my studies as an actor to go and study film, and so Liam would act in my films. I would direct said films, and then it got to a point where we were writing our stuff together and producing it, and it all just kind of blew up around about 2007 when we made a short film called Shotgun, which is available to watch online. And then a few years later, Liam got the job of replacing Andy Whitfield in Spartacus as the lead character Spartacus, and his career exploded. And I chatted with him early on. I think it's about episode 7. You can go back into the archives and check it out if you haven't already. But coming around to this 3-year anniversary, I thought who better to reflect on the last 3 years of life than my good buddy Liam. So here it is. This has been one hell of an introduction. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please look out for the upcoming episodes if you're not already subscribed. I said it at the head in the pre-roll, but you can subscribe at comingupnext.com.au on any of your favoured platforms. And here we go. 3 years of Cun. Here's to the next 3 years of Cun. And this week with Liam McIntyre. This may be we may be setting a standard, maybe not the right word, for earliest ever podcast.
Oh, it's so early right now. It was earlier before when we watched that football game.
It was much earlier before when we watched Australia draw with Denmark.
Which was almost exciting. It was good. It was better than the alternative.
It was better than not drawing with Denmark.
Sure. Well, it was less good than winning, but more good than losing.
Yes.
But yeah, it's so early that it's still early now, having watched a whole football game.
Yes. Which means it's early.
Yeah.
I guess that kind of contextualizes the time that we're recording this.
It hurts deep. It hurts.
It does. But I'll be releasing this in the future when this will actually be the 3-year anniversary of Coming Up Next. So there's a lot of things to cover.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
nice. You. Bustling 3-year-old boy of talking.
Is it terrible? No, it's terrible 2.
So no, you're good now. You're clear.
No,
it's all clear now.
We've gotten through that.
Yeah,
I mean, we
right.
haven't yet while we're recording this, but
that's
as
true.
It's being released.
Yeah, presuming this gets released, then we're in business.
Yeah, unless there's
cataclysms.
some big malfunction.
Yeah, we don't want that. I mean, that did take a while to turn on the recorder, but we're good now.
We're good now. It's interesting, though, to track back over 3 years. I was listening to the first podcast that we did, which was episode 7.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep.
So 149 episodes ago.
Is it that many?
Yeah.
How do you live?
On large piles of money surrounded by many beautiful ladies. That's not even
kids these days. You know what
true.
I found out recently? Aaron was on this tour. My wife was on a tour with younger kids, and they don't get Simpsons quotes. They don't get them because they don't see it. They don't watch it. They don't know it.
Yeah, I was hanging out with someone who was 27 and made a Simpsons quote. And
Nothing? 27?
Crickets.
Ouch, that hurts. That was still in the prime time. I feel like they would have still been growing up through prime time Simpsons.
Yeah, I would have thought so, but maybe not. Maybe it's
all the Ricks and the Mortys now.
Yeah, it's definitely frame of reference for
things has changed. I mean, we went to E3 last week.
We did.
Which I guess, as this is released, it was
Entertainment
maybe
Expo?
6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it definitely made me feel like I have become very disconnected from the things that
What's hot? What's on the
hot
pulse?
on the pulse in this current day and age. I guess kids nowadays are quoting things that Ninja does when he streams.
Yeah, streamers and stuff like that. I mean, I actually just started. I was terrible at the Fortnite game that the kids are playing, so I decided to play it some more to try and be better at it. And my new mouse that I bought, because I was serious about this. It came with some software that you could, I don't know, it have like random voices. You could get like the Simpsons pack so that at certain points in the game, I guess when you're shot or when you win or whatever, it plays Simpsons quotes or it plays Family Guy quotes or it plays Arnie quotes and stuff like that, which are funny. But there was like a whole section of just streamers quotes, like quotes from streamers, I guess, at moments that they were playing again.
Good.
So like that was an option. It's interesting, like the I guess the democratization of celebrity. And it was strange at the actual event that you joined me for at E3, where I was playing against all these pro gamers, which was like a dream come true, really.
In a soccer stadium.
Yeah, which is bizarre. Yeah, that's at Rich Orozco's LAFC soccer stadium. A buddy of ours who helps out with the LA's newest soccer team. But it was like they were walking in. Nobody there had any idea who I was, which is fine. But the person next to me, the Aussie next to me, they were screaming like it was a concert. It was like we were walking through the center of
the
them.
guy who was your gaming compatriot.
The guy. So it was like we were playing in squads of 2 duos, and I was paired up with, I guess, Australia's premier streamer, who's very good at that game. Very cool dude. And they were like, the fans and the kids were just losing their mind. I've never seen anything like it. Like I've been to like Hall H launching new shows for stars and things like that. Nothing like what they were getting. Like they were like literally kids just screaming like their lungs out. Like, at one stage, I literally heard one kid go, "Muzel, you are a god!" And I was like, hey, this is a different world.
Yeah.
I'm excited for him, happy for him to have that kind of recognition and stuff. It things have changed. Like things are changing, I guess, as they always do. But
I was just thinking, as you're saying that, I guess this is in a similar way that kind of transition period, maybe for our parents, say, where something like The Simpsons started to become popular, and shows like The Simpsons or cartoons in a way evolved beyond just being Hanna-Barbera type of children's programming into a more kind of teen-centric or adult-centric.
Well, it made me think of that. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, at what point do you become old? And I don't mean that in a sense of like, what age is middle age, what age is that? But like at what stage do you atrophy in your understanding of the world? Do you go, that is the world as it should be, any change from here on out is wrong? And it's because I was thinking about the world as it is now, and how, a lot of the decision makers that are making, quite, I guess, aggressive is probably choices. I'm like, I don't want to play the politics of whether it's good or bad. I have my opinions, but they're just making very assertive and I guess, especially to a younger generation, or even just to me, is just stuff that seems very painful, like stuff that's very harsh, aggressive, and not communal. And I was like, weren't you from the flower power generation? Wasn't it all about peace and love? And at what stage does that go? Yeah, that was about peace and love, but this new stuff is all bastard, is wrong. And sort of, I'm like, and just in little ways like this, like the temptation to sort of go, oh, streamers, like all this new medium, I suppose, that's not valid. Like is tempting because you've never seen it before. And on its face, because you don't understand it, it seems perhaps less significant. I was having a really big discussion with one of our friends at E3 about the validity of it, which is arrogant to even talk about whether it's not like our place to say stuff like that. But, you know, it was interesting.
We have a podcast to talk about it on.
Right? You save it for the good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like that idea that at some point as you grow older, you start believing that, or you stop understanding or connecting with new ideas, and you start believing that your ideas are superior to them. That you're like, well, of course it's not as good as what I had. You know, like we had the real thing. You know, like as if like in some ways, I guess flip phones are better than smartphones. You're like, well, smartphones and apps are like, not that anyone says that, but like, that's insanity.
Well, some people.
Yeah, but you know, like it's just
hipsters.
Yeah, hipsters do it. Or you know, or even like. I think I was watching an episode of Downton Abbey where they get the telephone and then people are like, "Oh, what's this monstrosity?" And you're like, "Wow, could you imagine?" Or like inventing the time I struggle to understand how people couldn't fly places in planes. You know, like it's only 100 or so years ago, and people
Not even, really.
just couldn't. It wasn't. You know, like it was 100 years ago. It would still have been. It still would have been far more normal to have taken a boat places.
Ride a horse.
Yeah, no, but in terms of like if you were to travel to England,
yeah.
say, or something like if you were returning back to where you're from, England, you know, it's like it was the amount of change that goes on, and that people start thinking that change is bad. I think, what stage does that happen?
Well, as we were having that discussion with your friend at E3, that was kind of where I started thinking, I guess, along similar lines. And I came back to where I'm staying, which is with some family, and I started commenting about this idea of the streamers who, you know, create commentary for their live streams of the gameplay, and how I didn't understand it or connect with it.
Yeah.
And my uncle, who I'm staying with, made a comment like, "Oh, well, I guess that's the new version of WWE wrestling."
Yeah, we were talking about it at the time. Yeah,
yeah, and my immediate reaction was to go, no, this is completely it's not
different.
even.
But that's it, right?
You know, I bit my tongue, and I'm like, oh, I guess for him, that's the relative comparison is he doesn't understand how someone can sit down and watch 6 hours of wrestling a week.
Of course,
which probably most people couldn't understand.
No, you know, but it's But yeah, but it is that sort of stuff where things that are, I mean, all those ideas are kind of abstract. You can't really compare like for like any forms of anything in many ways.
Yeah.
You know, in human condition, but that people just go, no, that's different. You know, but didn't you have this back when you were a kid? Yeah, no, it's totally different when I was a kid. I'm like, I mean, objectively, yes, those are different things, but emotionally or connectedly, you know, they probably represented similar things of community, or, you know, like I'm sure it was bizarre to be going into a movie theater at one stage, sitting in front of a big bright light reflecting images, you know, at you, with a community of people, and then it became basically, I guess, and
that people would make a job from creating.
That's his profession, or just a bit. I mean, just the, you know, the idea of sitting in a room looking at a bunch of things flashing on a wall with another 100, 200 people must have just seemed bizarre. Like, you know, it's the thing. The thing that I find funny is that as you go forward down the timeline, you look back and it doesn't, and you just go, well, because it always makes sense to you because you were raised like you look at like 2-year-old kids with an iPhone just like moving around, and you're like, you just do this. How are you just doing this? This was like a whole experience for us to like grow into and develop and learn and work with, and you guys just do it like it's nobody's been, but that's it, right? Like to them, they will grow up having no concept of not having that. You know, it's quite bizarre to really think about. So like the idea that I can't really understand how not being able to fly places would be. I can't really understand how odd sitting in a room full of people watching a bunch of images on a wall would be, because it's just, I mean, that's going to the movies. What's wrong with that? You know, and I'm sure when I have a kid, they'll grow up being like, "What do you mean? Like, how could you not think streamers are cool or whatever?" You know, who knows?
How could you have never had the internet?
Totally. How is that possible? There will be. I mean, surely this generation will. I mean, I can barely understand how I lived without the internet at any stage of my life, let alone what was probably 10 years that I did. maybe no, probably 12, something like that.
I was going to say it's probably more. It's like 96 or 7.
Yeah,
I think
maybe,
that it
yeah.
became kind of more mainstream in Australia.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you're probably right. Actually, yeah, I guess I was as early adopter as I could be, but yeah, 96 feels about.
But also,
right.
like, not even having, like, you might have one computer per household,
Yeah, sure,
and then some households just wouldn't even have a computer.
totally. Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't really until, I feel like it wasn't even really until I was at university that it was like became commonplace for people to, everyone to have a laptop, or everyone to, like, every, every person. And again, this is maybe more of a middle class thing.
Sure,
I'm
yeah,
sure it's
fair.
still
That's
not
fair.
that
No,
every
absolutely.
person in a household has a computer.
True. Absolutely true. But that said, carry on. You go.
I was just going to say that it was common practice that that so many that you would even have more than one computer in a house.
Well, I mean, it's yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's phenomenal to me that it's just how it's everywhere. I was reading the most fascinating article that I've read in so long about Elon Musk's attempt to kind of protect humanity against AI, which is, I mean, not his words, obviously. It's a lofty sounding goal, but like this. It's just this fascinating article. Like, I'll see if I can maybe get a link out or something. Like, it's a really good article about the idea that that you'll have to, humanity at some stage will have to, I guess, up the processing power to compete. So if we're going to, basically the premise being that we are going to create AI, that's just like humanity as a whole, like individual humans might go, well, that's not a good idea. But as a whole, we're like, no, it'll be super useful. And the idea being that as humanity, as a whole group, as a homogenous group, it's not as easy to change directions. I can choose to not pursue that. But as a whole, I think humanity as an entity goes, no, it's going to be really useful, and doesn't really factor in the risks because they can't see them. It can't see it yet because it's an abstract idea. So the idea being that to stop, when AI happens, it'll basically fundamentally be more powerful than we are, just on a computational and speed, and it'll have the access to the entire world at all times, and stuff like that. It doesn't mean it'll be bad, but it just will be fundamentally the first thing since humanity's risen to like a position of power in our corner of the universe, that there is something out there that we've made, something out there that can outfox us, as it were. So the premise being that you have to keep up with the Joneses, and then we'll have to like kind of cyborg ourselves up to do it. And the fact that people have an abject dislike for that, like a fundamental no, that's unnatural. And the premise being, I think Elon Musk said this, but certainly in the article, that you're already a cyborg. You're just a really inefficient cyborg. You've got your phone. You've got constant contact to the internet. You can know anything in the world in a couple of seconds. And so that you really think about not having your phone on you for a long time, for a day or 2 days, and that would be that'd be like losing a limb or more. And it's true, like it's feels almost unnatural now to not have it. And to move on from that, that made me start one of those head exploding moments where you're like, it's like, now imagine that in your mind.
Yeah,
so that,
you just got the direct access.
Well, yeah, like, and the fact that at that next progression, you will not be able to delineate the difference between going, I better Google that, and just knowing it. Like, you will literally just go, what's the answer? What's the capital of Senegal? Oh, it's that, because it'll instantly, your brain will just Google it essentially, and you'll just know it, and so you won't. It's like you'll have to learn how to process information more than you have to learn like rote facts and stuff like that. So it's like stuff that I find like fascinating and mind blowing and terrifying and interesting.
I assume Sadio Mane will be the president of Senegal by that point in time.
I mean, I'd vote if I'd vote for him. I would have no jurisdiction to do that, but
Did you sidebar see the in the Egyptian elections that I think 1 million people crossed out both candidates' names and put Mohamed Salah's name as a third candidate?
Are you kidding
true
me?
Story. He got the second most votes or something insane like that.
Jeez, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you feel he would be as a president?
Well, I don't know. He's doing a lot of good stuff.
That's true. That's true.
For the country through his profile as a very good football player.
Yes. Not scoring enough goals in the World Cup, though, to be fair.
He scored one, which is Egypt's first World Cup goal
That's true.
since 1990, I think,
That's true.
if not ever.
That's true.
So it's one more than they had before.
So he's got infinitely more goals than anyone else. That's something to be said for.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate that the rest of the team is not very good.
Maybe not as good.
Not as good as Mohamed Salah.
Yes, but that's asking a lot, I suppose.
It is. I guess one of the things about, revisiting podcasts as well is it kind of, it shows you how things have changed, how the world is like, if you consider how much the world has changed in the last 3 years, like forgetting our kind of
bizarrely
microcosmic lives that we lead, and the kind of existential insignificance of that. But like, actually 3 years ago, Britain was part of the European Union.
Yes.
Obama was the president of the United States, and
yeah, it is. There's been in the preceding 3 years. There's been a seismic shift in the world. There's some fundamental. I don't know what it is, specifically, but there's like energetically, if you want to buy into all that, it's something fundamentally different about the world than where it was 3 years ago. I don't know if it's a pressure of like a bunch of micro pressures building up to something, but yeah, it's I don't know. It's a slightly terrifying place to live. I'm not sure which way things are going to go. It went from feeling like, hey, we really got our stuff together, this is feeling pretty good, to like, whoa, what happened? Like, this is very things are very unsettled. I feel there's a lot of mixing up of previously established norms.
And I guess the concern is, are we in the middle of the storm, or is this like just the beginning?
Are we seeing the storm coming up?
Yeah,
well, exactly right. It's hard to. I mean, you can never know that till afterwards. It's I don't know. I do have a sense of like worry for my child that I have someday. Just because, I guess 3 years ago I would have been like, great, this is like, yes, there's a lot of massive pressures, but I feel like we're starting to move towards them. Things like climate change, things like different geopolitical disturbances and stuff like that. I think maybe we're heading the right direction. I mean, it's hard to say. It's not like Syria wasn't going on and stuff like that, so it's not like it was smooth sailing or anything. But I was like, I feel like maybe we're all starting to pull together, and it's just with almost in a blink of an eye has completely flipped, where it's like everyone for themselves in some way, and there's all this tension.
But maybe there's also like, I guess the hope is that this moment in time creates a wave for the disinterested or lazy next generation voters. And something like March for Our Lives definitely shows that there is a wanton desire amongst younger people
to be part of something
bigger than themselves, which maybe before this period of time wasn't the case.
I mean, they do. I don't know if I talked about this last time. I find this really fascinating that every generation. I looked into this one time. It was really interesting that every generation has like a, you can see the pattern of
like
society.
A watershed moment.
No, that too, but more like you can see, baby boomers, disruption of the war, want something stable, and so they have like one job, they have like the conventional family unit. Everything is very much about returning the chaos to a stability, and trying to, and so there's that, and then the next generation. The Generation X would see their parents be taken advantage of by their boss and see that sort of thing. And they're in this world of a lot of more affluence because they're sort of settled down and the countries have pulled together in the face of such a crisis like the Second World War. And so there's like the world is more affluent than it's been. So they have that freedom to like start picking their jobs. But as a result, they see all these missed opportunities by their parents. So they work harder and blah, blah, blah. The parents of those, like our generation, see lots of divorces from the stress of those choices through both parents working, which hadn't really happened prior to that, and working extremely hard and long hours to compete and to perform each other in order to try and make the most of the world and the opportunities they perceive having. So they're like feel underparented and they feel slightly ignored, and they see their parents working too hard. So they want to do a job that makes them happy. They want to do a job that fulfills them and allows them to interact with their friends who they grew up with as surrogate parents, and stuff like that. So there's that, but and again, more and more affluence, and their parents are working extra hard. So there's not individually, but across the board, more and more sort of opportunities and perceived opportunities, and technologies moving at such a fast pace. People have access to more things and the feeling like they can do more stuff. And then you get into this generation, or like I guess the coming generation, this sort of where there's like it sort of affects. I guess I'm at the very cusp of millennial, and I guess you're early millennial, but
I always considered myself Gen Y, but
yeah, I guess are those
point,
they're not the same things, are they? I've always I feel like they were interchangeable for a period of time.
I think there's I don't know. Read one thing and it says like I'm right on the cusp of millennial Gen Y.
Yeah, so I'm just on the fringe of it. So. But and so moving into that, it's that sort of sense that like I had a lot more freedom of choice and expression than my parents did, who had more freedom and choice and expression than their parents did, and so but with that kind of added benefit comes an innate kind of implied apathy, perhaps not for everyone, but you don't there's not as much struggle directly in front of you. So I guess that's why millennials have that cliche of being less...
But having that entitled...
Yeah, because, it's kind of justified. They have a world that's now connected intimately. They can connect with anyone, from their next door neighbor to the biggest celebrity in the world just by a few taps of a button. They can, they can do jobs all around the world. They can do them remotely. They can do them together. They can switch jobs at will, in theory. And there's the economies are doing well across the board. Again, I'd say that from a position of middle classdom or history of middle classdom. I'm sure there's many people that go, "Are you kidding?" But like what opportunity kind of thing. But I'd say on average that there's if you not that I guess the point being. Doesn't mean that everyone has that opportunity, but it's probably more accessible than it may have been across the board.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so now they need something like, they need something essentially to make them, or to make us, I guess, if I'm going to include myself, to rise to the occasion of sorts. There's been no major conflicts. Every other generation has probably had a war: Korean War, World War II, World War One, Boer War, all
Cold War.
Yeah, Cold War. Yeah, and there was this huge period of like it's. I think I'm scared because it feels like in human history there is always a war around the corner, and then there's been this period of time where there hasn't been, and then with all this tension suddenly skyrocketing, you're like, is that just humans being humans finding a way to go to war over anything?
Yeah, but also there's the pushback from, we're in a spot in history where, to use a great buzzword of the moment, there's a lot of diversity going around in terms of the opportunities that people who traditionally weren't being given opportunities are getting them.
Yeah,
and the world is evolving to a place of amazing equality,
where it should be,
not only across races or genders or orientations, but I guess in every sense.
Yeah.
And so it's like the old guard pushing back, going, "Well, no, this isn't the way that we believe the world should be."
Yeah, I find that fascinating. I find the idea of equality on my terms a very funny concept.
Yeah.
It's difficult, I get it on a point. I feel like most normal humans these days, certainly people from our generation, I like to feel on average, again, you can never say for everyone, that people understand that everyone should be equal, like that everyone should have equal opportunities as best as possible. Nothing can always be equal for everyone. It's not realistic. It sounds nice, but it just would never happen. Wouldn't happen for any creature in the whole galaxy. It's can't happen. But it should be something to strive for, and that should be something to be seen as a positive. But equality costs somebody something, and it's funny to me, like, as an actor, like this year more than any year, it's like it's been still wonderful but slightly less wonderful to be a white male. It's like, it's like, oh, equality is essentially giving females and minorities or other more diverse option of casting, and as a white male you feel that, and it's that you're like, wow, I had all these opportunities last year and there's so many fewer this year. And then I talk to like my black friends and they're like, oh, it's so nice to actually be going in for something that's of value, that I'm not like the black friend or whatever. I get a damn role to, like, I can audition for something that means something. Not that, they haven't had the opportunities in before, but it's shocking to me how much it's, as a white male, I won't see it. I'm like, it seems fine. Of course it seems fine to me because we're in the ascendancy in that regard. And so but it's funny to sort of hear the quiet rumblings of your friends where they're like, all of them and all of us are for it as an idea, but when it actually hits you, that it's going to mean you get less, fundamentally do get less, because there's only so much to go around and you can't have it all and get everyone else involved as well. There's like there's this funny tangible sort of sense of like, oh, so equality is going to mean I lose something, and you're like, yes, that means everybody gets brought to the middle, and it means that the people that have had nothing get more, and as a result you give up some so that they can have more. And it's interesting, like, it's that innate internal tearing between, I guess, the race or the group of people that have had everything. Actually, I did this movie last year, and we were in Romania, and I had a chaperone, which was in itself a very odd idea for me. But he was a lovely man. But Romania is not the most well-off country, I think it's fair to say. And he was struggling in his way and fighting the good fight, as it were. And we had this conversation about, famous actors and famous people and success, and because he wanted to be an actor and he was doing the best he could, and and he was telling me about how he did this ad for, I think it was like Porsche or something, and he made like great money. It was like $5,000, and I was like, in America, it was like you would make like 100, 2, 3, 5, $1 million. Like it'd be so much more money. It's like, and we were talking about the wealthy, I suppose, and his sort of disdain for that, and that idea that how can I was talking about actors that unappreciative actors, perhaps, people that aren't kind or aren't generous or aren't or change when they become successful. And he was doing that thing of like, if I had all that, I would appreciate it and I would be different. And as I was talking to him, it sort of had this weird sort of epiphany moment. And it's not a judgment of good or bad, but it was this moment of like, what would really suck in some regards? Being the richest kid in the world. Like, yeah, of course, as a poorer person, you see nothing but affluence. But you've got to remember every single thing they have is the best thing they can ever have. I was telling him, I'm like, if you try to wrap your head around it, my friend in Romania, he stays in a hotel at all. 1-star hotel, 2-star hotel, doesn't matter. He's on a holiday, best day ever. Like having a great weekend. It's what an opportunity. That guy stays in a 4-star hotel or a regular 5-star hotel, worst hotel he's ever been in. And you're like, just on a fundamental level, it's like, if you think of it like that, yes, of course, it's way easier and better in lots of ways to have that kind of resource and access and all those things. But it's a lot harder to shoot for things. I mean, I get like a lot harder to motivate in a lot of ways. I mean, I feel instinctually that it's a lot easier to have bad experiences, to be depressed about lacking something when there's nothing better to strive for. Almost,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like it's somewhere in there. I'm obviously, it's not as simple as that. But
There's an interesting deleted scene in Some Kind of Monster, the Metallica documentary,
right,
where they're all sitting around. There's a group of, I think, studio people sitting around talking about James Hetfield having this meltdown. And I think there's like a psychoanalyst or something who's like, this could be the best thing that's ever happened to the band.
Really?
And everyone's like, "Why? What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Well, they're 20 years in. From 0 to the first million, they're going to be so motivated to keep going.
Right.
But once they've kind of surpassed that first million, 1 million to 2 million, the difference is even less.
It becomes less and less.
And then it's like less and less and less. And how do you stay motivated to keep doing it? And the fact that they were on the verge of this breakup, but James was actually still searching for something.
Yeah, sure.
Meant that actually, even though in the moment, it seemed like this, very entitled musician having this kind of existential moment, actually he was looking for he was looking for the gratitude, or he was looking for the kind of artistic motivation to keep going. I'm not sure how this relates to what you were talking about.
No, I know what you mean. It's that sense that, I mean, I guess tying it all back, it's into that sort of thing. The sort of tangent we went on about, sort of the millennial entitlement and needing something to like wake you up, as it were. If you're in a world where everything seems to be kind of calm, opportunities seem to be in front of you, you aren't struggling on a fundamental level. Again, it's massive generalizations, but like, that you need opportunities or moments to strive. Like humanity needs to strive. I mean, I always think about further back to like the Roman Empire, where you have everything. There's only one direction you can kind of go, and people that have less, on the fringes of that empire, can start picking away at it because they're motivated to have some of it, or to have to aspire. They have something to aspire to, and they, everything's cyclical in some way, and so there's nothing, on a very fundamental level. I always wonder, like, if we're actually at the moment, like if it's a blip, or if we're actually at that moment where America loses its ascendancy. That's a massive tangent in that way, but like, I do wonder, like, it would be odd, again, because America's been the only, in my lifetime, like the premier nation for like democracy, as it were, quote unquote. And it's like, it seems to be in many ways sort of shaken to its foundations.
Yeah, very much so.
Fundamentally, and it's like, and I wonder if it's just that thing that all things given time, it's hard to stay motivated to be the best in the world. It's you might not realize it because you've set the like, you're the fastest runner in 1950. You've set the goal for every person after that to find a way to run faster than that. And for you, you're like, well, I'm the fastest runner, and like you are now. It's just hard to, I don't know, once you've reached the top of the mountain, it's really hard to find more mountain.
Yeah.
In a way.
Absolutely. How do you keep finding more mountain? And I think, not to kind of keep harping on about our generation or the generation after, but there's also that kind of like, everyone needs their feelings validated mentality about things.
I mean, I'll tell you what, like, and it's not, I mean, sure, okay, great. Everyone should be fair and treated nicely and kindly. And that's, I mean, obviously that sounds right and it feels right. But I was bullied mercilessly as a child, and it was horrendous. And one of the best things that ever happened to me. Obviously, that's not true for everyone. It's not something I think people should seek out. it wasn't fun in any way, and it was really damaging, and there were some really dark moments in my life or in my childhood from all that. But glad is the wrong way to phrase it, but you know what I mean. Like I'm having come through it, I'm stronger and better equipped for life, because life is not kind. I mean, you look, you know, if playing the long game, Mars was Earth, but it didn't have it got a hard run. You know, it's obviously it's not sentient, so it doesn't seem to matter as much. But you know, everything is hard, and to create an illusion that you aren't going to face a battle either with something that happens or with someone or with something is illusory, and it's tricky, obviously, with social media and things like that now. It's really hard. It's really hard to separate and to compartmentalize some of those challenges. Like being a parent now, I can only imagine, is very challenging in a way that, for all the benefits, there's costs, and to have a 7-year-old kid be cyberbullied must be hard in the extreme. So I know it's hard, but
things have certainly moved a long way from getting slapped in the face with a large trout on MIRC chat.
Right. So different now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, you know, it's funny. There's like, again, not long ago when, like, you know, my parents were getting corporal punishment. You know, they'd be getting hit by teachers and stuff like that as par for the course. And fair enough, it was. To me, it's abhorrent. But now, that's the thing, is everything changes. And now the idea that even yelling at a kid would be unfair. I mean, it's I don't know, it's fascinating. It's, how do you set boundaries if you don't, I mean...
There are people who don't say no.
Yeah,
seems like a strange...
it sounds nice.
Yeah.
And it certainly is, it is nice. It's certainly more pleasant. But at what point... Yeah, but then that's where I go back to that idea of atrophying as a person. Is that the point of me going, no, this is what I know and it works.
Yeah.
So therefore this new version's not going to work.
Well, I think we were having a discussion at E3 again about parents who don't allow their kids screen time versus...
Sure.
The reality is that... I guess there's two sides to that argument, because the reality is that the technology is not going anywhere, and if anything, it's only going to become more integrated into people's lives. But the flip side of the argument is that, you know, it stunts potential brain development over, and maybe social skill development over the course of the first couple of years of a child's life. So,
sure.
I suppose, I mean, like anything, moderation or using common sense is probably the best thing to defer to. Although common sense maybe isn't as common as
relative.
Like.
Well done. But I guess it's a relative concept too.
True.
It's fun how, I don't know, morality as a concept is another thing that's fascinating to me, and people searching for a universal morality versus a time-centric morality that everything, things that were allowed in thousands of years ago either should be definitely still allowed or definitely not allowed. You know, that idea of common sense is I guess so subjective, and that's part of the challenge, I think, is that, you know, in certainly in the political spectrum in America at very least, there's two very distinct sides now, very, very separate sides, where common sense means two very, very different things, and
fake news,
sad.
What a weird time where you actually can't, or it's so difficult to delineate between. Well, it's not that it's difficult to delineate between, but it's that the whole notion of what is fact has become subjective. It's
well, yeah. I that is the fundamental terror for me in the world. The idea that, I mean, it's fascinating to me that you could get to you listen to like people from, say, the 40s or 50s, and there's this sense of like, good argument, yes, fair. That is actually, you know what, you put it that way. I don't like it, but I respect that. And now it is just like, no, not buying, and not even listening. It's not even, it doesn't even factor into my, you've said something I don't like, so therefore I can figure out how to make it not real. And that's a weird place to be in. Like, it's so weird that...
Well, that's the jagged side of the kind of validating everyone's right to, I don't know, feelings or
have a
opinion,
voice,
or
yeah.
like it's, and everyone should, in one sense, but also, there's that kind of dangerous side of it where what we're seeing now is unfolding. And
I guess what I'd really like to see, I feel like everyone goes through, I mean, this is an instinct, it may not be true, it's like, I feel like every generation feels that they're going through that moment. And maybe we are going through it in a more profound way than others because of the connectivity of everything, but connectedness rather. But I don't know, I assume that everyone, I mean, we talk about this, the end of democracy, the end of truth, the end of the world. I mean...
It's probably the same way that
Cuban
our
Missile
parents
Crisis
spoke about the Cold War.
Yeah, it's,
Or
I mean,
thought about the
like
Cold
that,
War. Yeah.
like that was tangibly like we could all be dead in tomorrow, today. Like like that is mental. That's madness.
Yeah.
Like that's a crazy amount of terror. So like, I feel there's also that temptation to make your experience the worst experience. Because, I mean, how else could you? I mean, what else? You can't know what you don't know.
It is the worst experience for you.
Exactly. So, So I guess the hard thing is I mean, on the one hand, there's this fascinating, I mean, I'm tired of people that go and bring Nazi Germany comparisons to everything because it seems easier than it maybe is. But it is fascinating that there are elements of, I guess, societal tendencies or just the way that people or governments or like entities interact that are reminiscent of some of the factors or some of the elements of that then, and people are like, no, it's fine. Like I still find the idea of just hating Muslims just bizarre. Like,
yeah.
I mean, well, what is that? Like, I get that certain things happen that's attributable to people of that faith. That's awful, but just to go, so therefore, it's madness. Like, I don't understand how people are like, yeah, good point, actually. Yeah, maybe all Muslims are bad. Good call. That seems crazy. And you sort of think back, you go like, wait, guys, the Holocaust was like within living memory. It's like there are people who still were first-hand survivors of that. How is this? It's not even far removed in here. It's not like, if it happened in like the 15th century, you'd be like, well, I guess people forget. But like, how are you still making very similar related decisions in people who, on the one hand, would be very much like that was an abominable, like that was a travesty of human history. But this stuff's fine. Like, this stuff I get. You're like, but how do you not see these comparisons? Even if they're not, I mean, they're not identical, but there's elements that are repeatable. And I don't know, just stuff like that. The shorthand of, like the short memory of humanity is a little scary.
I saw an interesting tweet that said something like, it was perfectly legal for Jewish kids to be taken away from their parents. It was perfectly legal for, blacks and gays to be slaughtered.
Sure.
But it was illegal for this was a tweet from someone who was not Jewish, but it was illegal for my grandparents to hide this Jewish person in their attic. So the law is not always necessarily a barometer of what's right or wrong. Sure,
absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, that's that subjective truth, subjective, common sense and stuff like that. It's I mean, however you want to fall down on the political divide, there's the people that are like, everything Barack Obama did was brilliant, and there's the people that are like, I will destroy everything that man did because he was the worst. And it's just hard to understand a world where both those things are attempting to be true. and people are trying to make both of those correct. Not like trying to find a place where on the barometer of good and bad it sits, but literally trying to make it either true good or true bad, and not allowing any delineation between in the spectrum there. It's like, I feel like even as I was a kid, and before that, there was this sense of like, and it may not have been, it may be an illusion that you have with history and time as you look back at things and things sort of sort themselves out a bit better, but it did have it did feel like things had more of a, okay, look, this is, look, for me, I want these are facts, so okay. But now it does have more of a, it seems like it has more of a tendency to go like, those facts are fine. I don't like those facts. I like these facts. Like, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. That sort of saying where people just go, well, I don't know. They just sort of make up their own rules. And I guess with the democratization of things, you can pick news and you can pick stories. You can pick versions. Like, I try to be really diligent about going to CNN, Huffington Post, and Fox News, and trying to see which stories make it and which don't between all sides, as it were. And it's that is an interesting experience. Like, I would encourage everyone to look at every viewpoint and try to be objective as best you can. You can't be, but just to know what's happening, and just to try to at least checks and balances for your own worldview, so you can go, all right, I want to make sure this is still upsetting me. And if you're like, like there are things I read where people are like, this is the worst, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, yeah, I feel like you're blowing that out of proportion. Like, while I might agree with certain elements of that, I do feel like that's just sensationalizing a particular component. And sure, everyone on that side of an argument is going to be like, yeah, I get it. And it sort of fits your worldview, but be better than that. Don't just go, yeah, that's what I want to believe. Just like, do yourself a favor and go, it's what I want to believe, but how true is it? Like, be willing to change. And then getting back again to that sort of more thematic thing of this, where at what point do you stop changing? Like, do you go, no, that's my change done. I'm good.
This is the status quo.
This is what should be from now on.
Evolution. Yeah,
this is the best. We nailed it, guys. Time to stop. Like, this is it. No more moving on from here. It's fascinating.
I certainly hope there's not too many people doing that right now in the world.
What's that?
Putting a pin in it, going, yep, this is as good as it's going to be.
No, I do feel this is definitely, for whichever direction it's going to go, does seem like a transitional period of time.
Yeah.
To either 1984 or or something else,
or a future that we don't know about.
Yes, Blade Runner or something.
Yeah.
Neither of those seem awesome.
Skynet is coming.
Yeah.
So I guess we've just gone into a massive talking about the last 3 years politically for 50 minutes now.
Oh, we did that again, did we?
We did do that. Well, last time we didn't talk so much about the politics. We talked in more kind of microcosmic, or I guess it was macrocosmic, but it was like meaning of life and talking about love and happiness and kindness, which I suppose...
time for that now.
No, we got no time for that. But, I suppose for you personally, the last 3 years have seen a fair bit of transition in terms of career and life, and
the last 3 years have been crazy for me. Yeah, it's I mean, between buying a house, I mean, I was married when I last spoke to you, so that's my wife's getting success, which is wonderful. I lost my mum, which is recently, which is I'm still getting my head around just how heartbreaking that is and will be. But yeah, it's career's been, I've had a good enough career that I bought a house. It's madness.
It's like a pipe dream when you start out in a creative industry. Absolutely. Probably any industry, actually.
Yeah, of course.
Depending on where you live in this day and
in this economy.
Yeah.
But it is. It's I don't know where it will go or if it will continue, but to this point in my life, I've been successful, and that's more than I ever dreamed of being able to say in this line of work. It's so in that way, it's been pretty wonderful. Been very lucky. Made wonderful friends, connected with wonderful people, maintained the friendships I had, all those things. You sort of worry if they're up in the air as you move to another part of your phase of your life. But yeah, it's...
Made a card game.
Made a card game. Yep, made a card game. That's right. I've always wanted to make a game, and yes, I made Monster Lab. Buy it today on Amazon.com. Yeah, brilliant, nice plug.
Good plug.
Yeah, thanks. Seamless. I'm not good at plugging things. I feel like I shouldn't be in marketing. I feel like I'd be like, oh, buy it or don't, whatever. I mean, it's good. It's probably other better ones. Maybe not. I don't know.
You say that, but you did raise a pretty good amount of money on Kickstarter to create said game.
That's true. Yeah, we ended up raising $50,000, which is crazy.
Yeah, and it's not to say it was very genuine. It was a very genuine campaign.
Thank you. Yeah.
But you still smashed it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we wanted 10 and we got 50, so we did something right, which is nice. Christina Alan Samuel, who's this Spanish illustrator that did the art for it, is basically the hero of this. I thought up some crazy ideas for things that would fit together that you roll dice for, but she basically killed herself for a year to make art for it. Just, when you sort of like don't line up the goals quite right, and you're like, yeah, this will be easy. You do this, yeah, great. And then you're like, oh, this is the hardest job ever. I'm sorry. She was a trooper. She was amazing. So yeah, and that's kind of cool. I've got a thing. As an actor, everything's kind of ethereal in some way. I mean, you can have a DVD.
Transience.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, like even the DVD is not quite you being there. But yeah, I got a thing in a box on a shelf that you can do something with. It's kind of nice.
It seems like objectively, although Spartacus was like probably the most intense experience that you've had
that's fair.
As a performer, it seems like you continually managed to get jobs or create scenarios where you're actually fulfilling. Like if someone had said to me, what do you think Liam's like dream list of jobs would be to have had, I would have said something like Spartacus,
Sure.
to have created his own game and to have voiced like lead characters in video games.
I'll be right up there.
And that's kind of the way that your career has continued to develop.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has dreams and aspirations, and as you expand your horizons, you gain new ones. So just in order to grow and to keep motivated, as we were talking about before with other stuff, I find new dreams to have, but in terms of realistically I'm so far beyond anything that I realistically thought I'd be to be able to make a game. Like I've always liked board games, to be able to make one, even one that, I think it's great. I think I've got a better one in me. But I guess it's true of everything I do.
But that's, by the very nature of, I think, being someone who's not going to rest on their laurels or go...
Yeah, totally.
You don't sit in the moment and go,
yep,
I'm great.
Yeah,
That was great, and now I'm done.
No, but it was an amazing learning experience. I'm proud that we made a game that was fundamentally fun. It was like, for all, any flaws or shortcomings it has, the feedback I have from everyone is like, this is fun. And that's like, to me, finding the fun is the hardest part of anything like that. So that's an achievement. So having that in the world is like, I never thought I'd get to that opportunity. So that's wonderful. I hope I get another one. To be able to like voice, Captain Boomerang in a DC comic is just super cool. To be able to be a video game character in a major AAA title is like, again, something that the 5-year-old or 10-year-old in me just couldn't get it. I mean, first of all, the 10-year-old me would have been like, they do voices in video games? That's cool. But
it's not just text on a screen.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But it's cool. It's just like one of those things that it's just so amazing to me. It's like, it makes me so happy. There's why can't they announce that I'm in it? There's a thing that exists that has just been announced that I'm in, and it's so exciting. And they still haven't announced my involvement yet, so I can't talk about it. It's like next level excitement. When it finally gets announced, you'll understand why. So there's just been cool stuff, and I guess my career it's been unbelievably cool in a way that I didn't expect. From Spartacus, that was like, incredible. But again, something I never would have been like, maybe one day that'll be the future. I never would have thought that, some sort of action star was going to be in my future.
Yeah.
And then to go into all these, and to get into video games and and animations and stuff like that is just the coolest. It's like stuff that you never, never would have thought would have been on the cards or would have looked for. And it's, I've been very, very, very lucky to,
You've worked with, some of the most iconic actors of the last 50 years in some of the projects that you've worked on in films and, voice work. But I suppose, going from something like Spartacus into the work that you have been doing recently, have you felt like, moments of doubt where you've been feeling like I just want to be back in something like that?
Sure, yeah. It's. I mean, I always talk about. I don't know many actors that haven't got into acting with some underlying insecurity, not as the basis jumping off point, but as a kind of a driving force. That sort of need to be loved, need to be heard. Whether it's you telling a story and you want someone to listen to that story, or needing to communicate, and I don't know. It's probably not true of everyone, but I feel like most of the people I know in this field has an insecurity that never truly leaves you. So there's there are times when you're like, huh, is that it? I miss the, it's hard. I basically started my professional career at about the top. It's about as cool as an experience as I'd ever dreamed of having. And there, obviously, human moments where I miss the excitement and the spectacle and the importance of all that. Like going through that crowd with the Aussie streamer, and he's like getting people scream his name, and you're like, oh yeah, that was fun. It's like not that like my life is on some horrible downward turn. It's far from that. It's just, like there are moments when that spectacle element, or that just the attentionness, or the status that comes with something like that, you're like, that was fun. But I've never wanted something like that to drive me. I never wanted to feel like that was my, like my minimum, that I couldn't be happy without it, or something like that.
And also, you got to kiss Harvey Keitel.
So many times, Harvey Keitel. Yeah, that's coming out. I don't think they'll keep all the kisses in it. They may keep one of them. But yeah, I don't know how that came about. But yeah, there was definitely a reckoning moment in my acting career when Harvey Keitel was coming in, and I was like, he's going to kiss me. What do you do, Liam? You kiss Harvey Keitel, that's what you do.
Right. I suppose that's the watershed moment where you decide if you're an actor or not.
That is where I actually, as time slowed down, as that kiss was coming towards me, I was like, this is where you choose whether you're an actor or a pretender, Liam.
So this wasn't something that was scripted?
Oh, God, no. No, not at all. No, nowhere close. There's nothing in the script that would have made me go, this is on the cards.
Harvey Keitel may have gone to Upright Citizens Brigade just before he shot this film.
He may have. He was fine. The guy's a legend. He's understandable. Then it's cool. It's like, it's real. The thing is, it's like the thing is cool is like, he's as he's aging, he's still the dedicated actor that made him who he is. Like he's still going through his breathing exercises. He's still going through his warm-ups, and it's like, so I don't know, maybe you have this tendency to think that maybe as you get to a certain point in your career, you're like, you can just take the pedal off the gas and you're still going to coast and do amazing work. But you got to work. You can't stop, like any job, you can't stop doing great work, or you stop doing great work. So, it's like all that stuff like that, like unexpected. I had the same experience when I was lucky enough to work with Antonio Banderas. He's would surprise you and shock you in the most incredible ways, where you're just like, oh my God, and you want that. You want it's inspiring to see that from fantastic, successful screen legends. You sort of go, wow, that is why you are who you are. So yeah, no, like stuff like that is fascinating. Like it's cool to go, wow, I don't know where that came from, and that makes it special.
Yeah. I suppose if you're not having the kind of intense experience like on Spartacus, it's pretty incredible to be able to be in the midst of these legends and to be able to learn from them and collaborate with them.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience of LA, it's been like there are so many levels of jaw-dropping insanity, like where I can't really fathom. Like, so like when I'm a very young child, my favorite show is probably Fawlty Towers and Monty Python, and I got to work with John Cleese and do I got to do a Monty Python sketch with him, essentially, like ad hoc, just because we were bored, and just started doing it, and it was just like such a surreal and splendid. Like the year before, I think I went to see the last Monty Python live show at the O2 in England when they were doing that, and I was just so over the moon just to be in the same room. And then I got to introduce one of my other heroes to his hero, John Cleese, at a comedy thing that John Cleese did. Because then, as a child, an older child, I loved Futurama, and I'm probably safe to say pretty much friends with the entire cast now, which is just like unbelievable. And Billy West. Yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't say I was friends with Billy West. I would like to be. We get on really well, though. Like, that's mental. It's insane. Like I work with John DiMaggio. I got the sweetest call about my mum from Maurice LaMarche. I really like Phil Lamar and stuff. We get on really well. Which is just it short circuits my brain to feel like I've had built these incredible relationships with people that are like my heroes. It's just so cool. Like I've had like a Hollywood experience better than I could ever dream. So like, yeah, in the last 3 years, it's I guess solidified that I'm on the right path. I hope it seems like everything is moving forward in again, not in the way I expected, but in a way that makes me very happy.
Yeah,
and it's a lucky man that can say that.
I suppose the kind of through line of this conversation has been about keeping your mind open to where the world is going to be turning to.
Never stop growing. It's. I always had this idea that I saw this a lot in older people that I knew. It's like when you stopped growing, you started dying. Like when people were like, wasn't like when they retired specifically, but when they sort of retired from contributing to life. It's not true of all people. Other people find new goals to have, whether it's painting or whatever it is. But when you sort of like, it's like your body senses that you're done.
Yeah.
It sort of goes, oh, that's all you need to do. All right, well, okay. I guess we'll wrap this up.
We're done here then.
Kind of, and it's this weird sort of energetic thing. But that get busy living or get busy dying kind of thing.
Well, if you look at like plant life as a kind of analogy or metaphor, as soon as something's ripe, the next step is to rot.
Yeah, totally. Sure.
So if you kind of decide that you've hit your apex and you're ripe, or you're beyond ripe, then the only space you can really go to is rotting.
That idea, like like we were saying before, with like you get to the top of the mountain, down's the only direction. There's no more top. It's so like, I guess the idea is make sure that whatever you dream, the mountain is big enough, but it needs to be scalable in some way.
Well, once you hit the top of the mountain, then you decide you want to become an astronaut, so you can go to the moon.
I guess that's it. That's it, right? Well, you can get a good vantage point of that bigger mountain than you didn't see you could climb. At the very least. But yeah, it's I guess that's sort of the through line that it's very easy to atrophy. I think to feel like it's all been done, or it's been achieved, or it's I don't know, like being resistant to change. I think change is worth questioning. I think it's important to go, this change? Why this change? Is this the right change to be doing? But to just go, although that looks like change, none of that, thanks. Is to disown all of the history that you've ever had where you grew.
Yeah. And also, most things, from my experience in life, that you resist, like not to say that you should acquiesce to everything, but the more you resist things, the harder they become.
Yeah, seemingly.
And it's hard to, like, that seems like such a black and white way to kind of talk about change, because, change isn't always good.
No.
Like, change can also mean regression, not progression.
Of course, yeah, change is not always positive. It's certainly not.
But, I guess using your own moral barometer to decide whether or not, you're going to hide the Jew in the closet or give them up to the Nazis.
I think
one's illegal.
Isn't that
one's
what we're
legal.
all asking? Should we hide the Jew in the closet? That's
Yeah.
the lesson we learned from this. That's what you should be asking yourself.
Yeah, which is why, incidentally, we're doing this podcast from a closet.
That's right. That's right. Well, I feel like it's roomy enough, though. I like this uncle's place. It's a big closet.
This uncle's closet.
Yeah. Should we change the title of the show?
Dear Rich Dr. Nephew.
I'll split an order. Apparently, everyone in Futurama does a really good Zoidberg. That's what I'm told.
I feel like if there was one character that everyone was just going to try and do,
yes,
it'd be Zoidberg.
It's everyone tries to do so. Yeah, yeah. They all have a Zoidberg, which is fun.
I'd like to hear Katie Seagal's
I have not heard
Zoidberg.
Katie Seagal's Zoidberg.
Zoidberg.
Yeah, I think something like that. Maybe. They're not bad Zoidbergs though. To be across the board, like I says with good authority, pretty good Zoidbergs.
Just imagine you on like a bus or something with the cast of Futurama, just everyone doing their Zoidberg.
Oh man, they are funny people. They are fundamentally funny people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of my happiest memories in my acting life was being on a bus to a convention with Billy West and John DiMaggio, just doing improv 50s radio show. It was just, I can't even do it justice with explaining it. Everything was improvised. And hilarious. They did their own ads. They did like just winging it. Just amazing. Like,
Are there any of these people? Are there any people that you've met, being that, you've met some of the biggest names in entertainment and show business, and probably other, gaming and other industries? Are there any people where you've felt kind of overawed by meeting them or by the experience of having met them?
Sam Jackson.
Go on.
Basically, I was doing Spartacus. I was invited to a Broadway show that Sam Jackson was in on the mountaintop. It was amazing because he wanted to meet me. Because apparently Spartacus was his favorite show. That's cool.
Cool.
I was like, he wants to meet me, and brought a buddy of mine. I started acting. My first show he was in Ireland. And we hadn't seen each other in 10 years. So basically, in the preceding 10 years, nothing had happened. Then I suddenly got this huge job, and I was like, "Hey, guess what? I'm a proper actor now." And so we hung out in New York and took him to this thing, and he wanted to meet me afterwards. So I was going to bring my buddy to meet him. So I'm like, long story of like couldn't find any way to like actually get into Sam's space, like to the backstage. That's I usually tell that story in a long way, so I'm shortening it a little bit, just in case I have told it. And anyway, finally get in. Tiny lets us in. Tiny was like 6'10".
Of course he was.
Yeah, and walking up the stairs, hear his voice, freak out a little bit already because it's Sam Jackson, because Sam Jackson's super cool. And I remember having a conversation with my brain where I was like, "Oh, don't freak out. Don't be that guy that's like, you're the best ever. I love all your movies and you're so cool. And like, just don't fanboy out. Just be cool. You guys are contemporaries now. You're an actor. He's an actor. That's about all we need to do about that. Let's not look into the details. We're pretty much the same now."
Yeah.
And so just be cool, man. Just be cool. That's what Sam would want.
Cool.
Be cool.
Tell your bitch to be cool.
Yeah, right. See, you get it. So I was telling my bitch to be cool. In my internal bitch, my inside bitch.
The Liam bitch.
Yep. And walking up those stairs, then he was in his dressing room. I meet him, super cool, exciting. Introduced my friend, tell him a bit about the story of how we met. we get it's all going very well. And then I was like, saw the show, great show, man, I love the show, I love your movies, love all your movies, was going into that zone. I was stepping into the whole fanboy zone. And my brain stepped in and I was like, whoa, we talked about this. we said we weren't going to do this. We weren't going to be like, we love everything you do. Just hang in there. I'm going to fix this. My brain's like, I got this. Just take it easy.
You just chill out.
Take it easy. And I got this. And so what I ended up doing as my brain took charge from my nerves was I was like, oh, it was a great show. I love your work, love your movies, love all your movies. Well, I don't love all your movies. Wait. Did I just... Okay. I'm pretty sure I just said I don't love all your movies to Sam Jackson for no reason. And I was like, oh, I mean... And then he said, well, I did Snakes on a Plane because I wanted to. And I was like, well, that's... I mean, in my head, I was like, well, that's on you, man. If you're thinking I mean Snakes on a Plane, that's kind of your stuff. That's not my... I mean, I might have been meaning any movie. I could be meaning any kind. It could have been Black Snake Moan. You don't know. I mean, like, you know, so I'm like, that's kind of on you.
Deep Blue Sea.
And then we started... So then I tried to, like, obviously dig up, which never works very well. And I was like, oh, yeah, totally. No, I mean, no, that's a good film. It's a good film. It's a good film. And I was like, oh, but, you know, everyone does films. You know, we all do stuff that we don't necessarily. I'm talking about choosing to do a student film, like 2 years prior to that was not great, to be fair. It was objectively not a good film. But it seemed like a good choice at the time for me, where my career was at. And he's talking about multi-million-dollar, $100 million budgeted films, and he is like
about snakes in the toilets of a plane.
Well, yeah, there were snakes.
Are they in the
There
toilets?
were planes. I don't know. I don't know if I've even seen the movie.
Wasn't the original title "The Snake in the Toilet on the Plane"?
Yeah, the toilet snake in the plane.
Toilet snake on a
Toilet
plane.
Snakes, starring Sam Jackson. But yeah, so I managed to really embarrass myself. That was fun. It's fun sticking your foot right inside your mouth.
Yeah.
He was cool with it, though. He still introduced me to his wife, so I was like, this has worked out.
My wife.
He's my wife. He didn't sound like that.
Doesn't do a Borat impression when he introduces his wife.
He doesn't for some reason.
My wife.
My wife.
Could you do Sam Jackson doing Borat?
That I didn't. I will ask next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, he
Maybe don't.
introduced me to a charity. He brought me. We've hung out. He wished me happy Thanksgiving. That's how good things are.
That's pretty cool.
They all worked out.
Yeah.
So
you
like,
were thankful for the experience.
I was, but like just that is insane. Like I'm like life. So yeah, the last 3 years have been unexpectedly cool in ways that, you know, like I'm not Batman yet. So obviously not everything's
Is that
worked
the top
out.
of the mountain?
I'm sure I'd find another mountain, but yeah,
James Bond.
yeah, those two are pretty much my Everests. But only like
Twin Peaks.
hummingbirds. I mean, are they? I don't know. It's my sense of what celebrity is. My desires have changed a little bit, interestingly, in that I guess the natural instinct was Spartacus. Okay, next, can I be like Superman or something? That'd be great. Can I be in a Marvel franchise? And it's not, I don't want those things. I do. But there's a big cost to being extremely famous. A big emotional cost. And the greatest gift I have right now is happiness. And I've been lucky. I've had great career moments. I've had great opportunities. I've paid well for things. I can be comfortable in a way that I never dreamed. But yeah, there is now part of me going, what price fame? Like, you know, to not be able to actually go to the shops. Like, I think one of the weirdly cool things, like at those kind of E3-esque things, there's still a part of me, I guess, as a fallout from Spartacus, where you are like, oh, is this going to be a thing? Like, are people going to start being like, they never do? No, no, but you're like, now it's like a couple of people will, you know, sort of be like, hey, are you that guy? And you're like, yeah, I am. And we both have a moment. I remember the happy days, and they remember, you know, and it's nice. It's not in any way unpleasant.
There's a huge community around it.
Yeah, but it's nice, you know. But it's subtler,
kind of civil and subtle, and it's like you kind of share.
Yeah, it's share
like
a
you're
good
a
memory.
family.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you're my
yeah,
cousin.
we get this. Yeah, we get this. We know what we did, and that's really cool. And at that huge Fortnite Pro-Am thing, it was so about streamers, which was, again, sort of strange because you're like, it's because it's a new medium. You're like, wait, these guys are getting all the attention, not like the football players or the whatever. Cool.
Yeah, because there were like some big
sports, like big people that I'd heard of, but it wasn't about them. You know, it wasn't. People are still excited that they're there, but
the New Day were there as well. Yeah. I was very excited about that.
You were excited about that. See, yeah, that's right. We never talked to them. I'm sad.
No.
But you know, it's like, it was like the first time I was like, I don't even need to worry. Nobody's coming up to me. This is not about me at all. And it was kind of like, wow, I can be anonymous. Not that I'm not anonymous half my life. You know, it's in a reasonable way. But like, you were just like, wow, I don't have to. I just, I can just exist.
There'd be a certain level of facade or energy that would be required to...
Well, yeah, you're aware that people are going to potentially be judging you. Even if nobody knows, people might be like, who's that guy? I never watched that show. And that's fine. But you still kind of know you've got to be ready in case it does.
You've got to be on.
You kind of, which is no bad thing, but, it's a conscious thing you need to be aware of. And I enjoy it, and I like it. But there's that. There's, and even Spartacus was still very, like, there were a few moments of running away and into a car and stuff like that because it was all getting a bit crazy. But
right.
for every, like, running into a car from a bunch of fans, there was also the, like, oh, wow, man, it's so great to meet you. How was working with James Cameron on Avatar? I'm like, oh, you think I'm Sam Worthington? Do I sign this Sam Worthington? Do I sign this Sam Worthington? I do sign this Sam Worthington. Why ruin his day? It's not his fault. It's not about him. It's, And moments when they're like, can we get a photo? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, what are you doing? Getting a... Oh, of you two. Of you, not me. You two people, you don't want me in it because you don't know... That's fine. Why would you want me in the photo? Why would you don't want that? That's.
This is a practical joke I do.
Just kidding. I know. I thought you might get it. It's a joke. Just gags. Just gags.
It's Australian thing.
Australian. Yeah. Don't worry about it, mate. So anyway, photo you two guys. Let's focus on that. That's just you beauty. But yeah, that was one of those fun times. You're like, yeah, okay. This is embarrassing. There's nothing makes you feel more unrighteously arrogant than trying to take a photo of people who do not want you in their photo and have no idea why you would ever want to be in their photo.
Yeah.
You're like, I have assumed that. That's on me. That's my fault. I have made an assumption about my level of success that is not merited.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite, like, it's nice getting casual recognition. That's a fulfilling, that insecurity is filled, and then there's the part of you that thinks that if that was to be played out to its nth degree, it would not be as pleasant. It would be like, cool, I'll get Uber Eats all the time because going out would be a nightmare.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that would be a pretty alienating way to live, despite having everything that you would want materialistically.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I do look at it's shocking to me how many seemingly happy marriages or people, in the last couple of weeks, there's like, Bourdain's and Kate Spade and like all these people who commit suicide, which is tragic. I mean, Robin Williams last year, was it last year or 2 years ago?
Who?
Robin Williams, like all these people that you're just like...
A few years ago now.
They seem so happy. Is it really? Well, life. And you're like, oh, life, the people that you're just like, really? Oh my gosh. And marriages breaking up where you're like, what? They seem so rock solid. Because just the pressures of being that person or that couple or that,
public property in a way.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is the deal. That's the deal with the devil that you make, in a sense, where you're like, I'm going to trade away a bit of me for a bit of that. And that's, I mean, nobody should be, I mean, that's, that going in. You should know that going in. So I'm always like, I don't want to be a guy that's like, oh, I'm so famous, like tough. You know what this is.
Yeah.
Do something else. Do something else if you don't like it.
Played the game.
Kind of, like, that's the game, how you play it. I don't know how that song goes anymore.
Close. Triple H probably can't go anywhere.
What's that?
Triple H probably can't go anywhere.
I don't imagine he could. No, I mean, there's probably certain...
because he can't fit through doors.
Yeah, there's like a physical element to that. But I mean, I'm sure there's probably areas he could go. There's probably certain places that aren't WWE demographics.
It's very niche, even though it's very
broad. Yeah.
Broad.
Yeah, true.
It's a strange paradigm.
Right. So Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm always developing my ideas of what life should be, which again is, I guess, what we're talking about. Always be willing to think bigger than what you're currently thinking, or different to how you are thinking.
Definitely. It's great to come to LA and be in the sort of environment where there's a lot of kind of stimulation to be progressive, despite some of the preconceived notions about what places like this could be. It's.
How are you finding the experience? How do you find visiting LA for you?
I really enjoy LA. I mean, it's an industry town.
Yeah.
There's no kind of novelty about what we do here. It's like this is the place where it all happens. And I was like, this is the first time that I'm like, one of the first times I think that I've come here and been like, it's like the culture of meetings.
Yeah, sure.
It's like just taking meetings, and it's almost a joke in a way.
Yeah, that's funny.
But it feels like the hustle is something that, and I don't mean that in the kind of pimp sense, but
the hustle is real.
The hustle is real, and it's something that I enjoy doing, and you can meet people who are doing great things. Things are a lot more accessible from here, and I think I said to you the other day, from the vantage point of Melbourne, a dream feels like a dream. It feels like a far-fetched idea that you might be lucky if you can kind of touch with one finger. But from the vantage point of somewhere like Los Angeles or New York or London, a dream still feels like a lofty idea, but it feels like something that actually, if I work really hard and I meet the right people, which I can do in these spaces, it's something that I could maybe achieve.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's funny, like, as I go back to Melbourne now, I love Melbourne, always have, and Melbourne, it's no slight at all. I feel like Melbourne feels like, and again, nothing's absolute, there's always exceptions. Melbourne feels like the safest kind of place. It feels like a place where you go to make moderately safe decisions in a very safe environment, to be comfortable, to be content, and none of those things are bad things. I don't say that with any kind of, like that, because people go like, to be content, like it's a swear word, like that's admirable. Like there's a reason it's the world's most livable city, because it's just, things just feel good there.
I don't want to say it's easy.
No, it's not easy, but it's
not the right connotation, but there is a comfort, I suppose, in.
Yeah, I feel like things are in, like, say if you break, there's a middle line, and then there's like 4 quadrants up and 4 quadrants down, like the very bottom being the worst, the very top being the best. I feel like Melbourne sits comfortably between the middle and the first 2 up the scale of the good side. You're going to fit. It's going to be, maybe just 1 on the bad. Like things are going to be okay. Things are going to be pretty good for you. It's going to be real hard to step outside of that up to the real top. Like, I feel like LA spans almost the gamut. Like, you have horrible experiences here for multitude reasons, and you can have unbelievable experiences, superhuman experiences here. And you run that risk. Like, Melbourne's like, I feel like Melbourne's for the risk averse, perhaps. Not in all cases, but
it depends what your baseline is, I suppose.
That's true.
As two people who grew up in Melbourne with kind of stars in our eyes.
Yeah, true. That's true.
Things seem like you come here and you're like, I can do what?
Yeah, true.
Whereas people who grew up here are like, yeah, of course.
Obviously.
That's obviously.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
And they're like, you have what in Australia? Oh, you can do what in Australia?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. You can get grass is greener element. Yeah, you can just, there's a level of.
But again, it's like, in what industry do you work in? Because if you work, if you're a doctor and you work in medical industry, maybe Australia is preferred because there's a lot of in a lot of ways Australia is kind of on the cutting edge or the kind of crest of the wave.
Sure.
For various other industries for the world, but for people like us,
I guess that's a very exclusive acting experience because like you said, it's an
entertainment.
Industry town. Yeah. No, it's true. No, it's just I'm interested because people have wildly different experiences of Los Angeles. So I'm just interested to know what yours was.
Well, yeah, I'm again to go back to the notion of a baseline. Actually, having a screening of a film that I made here, which was a remarkable experience in and of itself.
Absolutely.
But it was also a kind of, I was able to invite friends and family who live here, who are people that I've collaborated with. Well, not family, obviously, but people that, friends that I've made from collaborating with over the years who live here or happen to be in town, kind of showed me the really, truly cosmopolitan nature of living in a hub city like LA or being in New York, or I keep referencing these three cities, but to me they kind of set the benchmark.
Paris or Dubai or Hong Kong.
It showed me that I guess home is really a perspective.
Absolutely.
It's not really a place so much as a state of mind or a way that you frame a place, because, sure, if I was in, like, somewhere in Mexico, maybe wouldn't have friends and family that were coming to a screening, and maybe it would be more of a challenge. But I went to Kiev 6 weeks ago or something and didn't feel displaced there.
No.
Again, a unique experience because there was a sea of red that I was...
Yes, you and your fancy Liverpool.
Well, yeah, if only they'd have won. But
hey, we couldn't even get to the Europa League final, so just chill out there for a minute.
It's true. Not even for Wenger's last game.
Oh, and don't even get me started.
He kind of went out as his last sort of
yes, he
decade
did.
went on. But
it's horrendous.
I feel like we're almost getting to the point that we got to in episode 7 of being... well, we're 90 minutes in now.
It's a big chat.
It's a big chat. And we just kind of went in.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like we covered a lot of ground, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I like that we managed to basically leave in a theme. We could create a theme out of this.
We did, and I didn't even have any notes this time. Last time was impromptu, and then this time was impromptu.
Yeah, that's how it goes. That's how we do.
Yeah. I suppose when you have a 15-year friendship... Doesn't hurt. I'm very grateful for you to help me celebrate the 3-year anniversary after we've been up since 4:30 in the morning watching the World Cup. And I guess by the time this goes to air, we will have known if
we won
France
the World
and
Cup.
Peru,
or
what the result of that will be.
Yeah, that's true.
And then we'll know if Australia, Peru has been favourable.
I look forward to this airing as we lift the cup, lift the World Cup. Massive underdogs.
Actually,
total shock.
The 3-year anniversary of the podcast will be the Tuesday after the World Cup final. So
here we are.
Let us know how it's gone.
Yes,
future
you and me.
Wait.
Future listeners. Wait a minute.
Is there some sort of time travel happening in the other room?
Could be.
It could be our future selves.
Oh dear. Well, somebody get the guns. I've seen Rick and Morty. I know how this goes. It's been an honour being part of the 3-year celebrations.
Yeah. I don't know if it's so much a celebration.
The 3-year happenings.
Yeah. Who knows where we'll be in 3 years from now?
Sure.
Maybe Winston's
let's ask our time-travelling selves.
Yeah. Wait, no, they're only from like 6 weeks in the future.
Oh.
Not even.
Well, they'll have a clue. They'll be better. They're closer.
Yeah, that's true.
Hopefully nothing too dramatic's happened. But yeah, it's, success and health to you, my friend.
And to you.
Thank you.
Well, I suppose I should ask you, I don't think on the last episode, I feel like that was the only episode that I didn't finish with the what makes you silly question.
Oh, possibly, yeah.
Because I remember going to cut like a clip show, which is just a lazy way of not having an interview.
That is a lazy way.
Although it actually requires more work in the editing. But I remember I was like, I forgot to ask Liam what makes him silly, which just seems silly in itself.
See? You succeeded.
Yeah, but now...
here we are.
Here we are.
So, okay, give me some context as to what this question is. Like, silly how? Silly like a clown? Like I amuse you? No, way funny.
It's... I like to tell people I made it grammatically ambiguous so that they could interpret, is it what is it about me that's silly, or what is something that turns me silly?
Oh, yes.
But really, it was just poorly phrased when I began, and then I rolled with it.
It works for you.
It does, and now I've ruined it. Happy 3-year anniversary, everyone. There's the truth.
Yeah.
And no, Nick was not wearing pants for the first 20 episodes. He was wearing pants. We would never do that.
Right.
Because then you get
rubbish.
things like Louis C.K. happen. But anyway.
Oh, yeah. That stuff. 3 years. What a 3 years it's been.
Yeah.
What makes me silly? I'm like quite square, so I kind of don't really care I care deeply what everyone thinks all the time, but then there are like these weird moments. Like, for example, I have acute memories of just dancing like a maniac and just at some stage going, what would other people think of this? And it would probably not have gone well. But, I don't know. It's just I've always loved absurdity. Like, I just find stupid things funny. Just like, from Monty Python, I guess, is where I got that from. But
Stupider.
Oh, Dan Castellaneta, what a god amongst men you are.
Yeah, and I think the way that you kind of look for any opportunity to riff on an idea. I mean, you specifically.
Yeah.
Like, if someone throws a joke out, you're almost always the first person to kind of pick up the ball.
Straight in their face.
Yeah, and punch them in the face.
Right in the face. Punch them in the balls with their face.
With the face and the ball. Case in point.
See?
Did it right there.
Where's the punchline? Where's the see, you got it. You got it. You got that classic riff, that classic melody. Who could forget?
Yeah.
Who could forget? Catch Where's the Punchline? Its first and only episode on Al's podcast.
Yeah. Where you learn how to fall off things. Good.
Oh.
And
we had some
Winston
time.
Churchill
Was what I was going to do next as well. That's right.
I keep jumping in on you.
Oh, it's killing me. I found my Where's the Punchline sketch book that I wrote with Dean for going through my mum stuff.
You actually did speak about that on the last...
did I?
You were like, I recently found
what
all the sketches that Dean and I wrote.
Where did I put them in order to then find them again? Like I'd never found them before.
What a cycle.
3 years has been a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'll be in another 3 years, finding that book again. Yeah, guess what I just found? Books. Yeah,
you'll never guess what I found.
Yeah, like this is not news.
Remember when we made Where's the Punchline?
Yes, I know what you're going to say. Yes, you found the book. Good.
That book with all the
the stupid book.
I found the book.
Yeah,
with
you always find the book.
Sketches that.
Yes.
What was the mime one? The Mimes in the Wild and
Mimes in the Wild. That was good times. That was Jesse.
That guy,
something. What was the one where Jesse was putting washing in and he was dressed as a woman?
that was the mime
something
one.
about meat.
I think friends are great to eat.
Yeah, something about that.
That was weird.
Yeah. It was. How it didn't become bigger, I don't know. Who
released the philosophers?
Release the philosophers. That was good. I remember. Main Ridge. How we've missed the.
Yeah.
Do your listeners know about Main Ridge? Was that a secret Al moment?
I don't know if it's really a secret Al moment, but it's like, well, how long have we got?
Yeah, it's for another time.
That's
3 years from now.
That's like a good 17-year story.
Yeah, that is a pretty long story. It was a wonderful place. Imagine like Narnia, but in like the peninsula of Australia, Melbourne.
And you didn't have to walk through a cupboard to get there.
Well, didn't you?
Well, if you consider Downs' backside a cupboard.
Yeah, emotional. Yeah, that's true. An emotional cupboard.
Usually the silly question's meant to end the show.
So I've ruined it. I've ruined the show. I get it. You can tell me. You can say it.
You should probably just not do the show anymore.
You've got to stop it on that last bit where you should probably that's the end of the show.
Yeah.
Well, no. Well, now now it's getting meta because now we're talking about the end of the show.
Is this the end of the show?
Is it? You tell me.
Yes.
Still.